update. I have 3 points to get through. Stick around, especially because the last one has to do with collective prediction. Number one, thank you to all the people in my DMs. I was correct. This Pilates post that went viral happened on Tuesday, May 13th. You can go and scroll back to the 13th May post astrology. This woman was the epitome of that day's energy, and the astrology was on point and did not miss. As they say, karma doesn't miss no one. And this is why we follow astrology, right? Because it can be very helpful. Second point, in my story, I put an apology. I know that I said that I was going to come on this week to do live mediumship. Unfortunately, I had some last minute bookings, and then the astrology just really got shitty. And I don't like doing readings when there's a square with Neptune or a square with Mercury. Focus is very important for mediumship and also accuracy. So, staying true to my word, I will be doing live mediumship on Sunday here on TikTok for free. And of course, I want as many people to come as possible. So please let me know in the comments by DM, what time would you prefer me to do this live? I can do morning or I can do afternoon. I am in the Pacific. I was thinking either 11 a.m. or 3 p.m. Pacific, but if you've got other ideas, I'm open to it. Last but not least, brings me to my third point. Okay, and third and last point, which is a two-parter, which you're going to hear about obviously later in tomorrow's astrology forecast. The main event is the Sun conjunct Uranus. This energy you've been definitely feeling this whole week. My peeps who suffer, anxiety are probably feeling this a little extra. You can definitely feel this free-floating anxiety, and sometimes when we have these anxious vibes, we make poor choices, we do things that's erratic, and it's really important that you stay grounded and you care for your mental health. With all of that said, the conjunction between the Sun and Uranus can be very enlightening. This is where you can have some aha moments. It's a good time to do some reflecting and, change your perspective perhaps. With all of that said, Uranus is the planet that is responsible for shaking things up, literally earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, sudden shifts. And the moon being in Capricorn, which is an earth sign, this conjunction taking place in an earth sign, I would, be a little cautious. And last and final, in my March predictions that I posted about collectively what I see, and I talked about how I see a volcanic eruption in the Pacific, and I see a very large plume of smoke, possibility of earthquakes, tsunamis, but more so over, this is going to present some huge problem. And I do see issues around travel, which if there was a huge plume of smoke, that would definitely affect air traffic and so forth. And this week, I see in my For You page some post about a volcanic eruption. Now, I follow a couple of volcanists here, and they were talking about how, I guess, there's some clickbait going on about this volcano erupting in the very near future, which has got my ears really way perked because I do feel as though this event is approaching. With that said, this volcanist went into, and I wish I knew the name of this volcano, I apologize, but he was saying that the volcano itself is 2,000 meters underwater. And yes, it could trigger more earthquakes and tsunamis. And I was like, this sounds a little too on point for me. So I left in the comments, would you see a smoke plume? And he said no. Because of the weight of the water, the gases stay trapped within the water. Like, yeah, there's lava flow and all of that stuff happening, but it doesn't shoot up, 2,000 meters out of the water, which I was like, okay, that's interesting because the smoke plume is a very big part of the vision. And don't get me wrong, as a professional psychic, I do realize that things can be translated and not be literal. In other words, I see the the plume, and it's trying to signify to me that it's a volcanic eruption. But I do feel that the eruption itself causes more destruction and more troubles and issues. When speaking on Uranus, and since he is moving to very shortly the 29th degree, because they were talking about this prediction taking place the first week of June. And he even showed a graph of how there's been an uptick of activity since April with this volcano, which, mind you, the sun moved into Taurus mid-April. We're about to enter into Gemini season. Now, Uranus, the planet that's responsible, is going to be moving into Gemini on July 7th. Now, what's interesting about that is in the month of July, we also have a Mercury retrograde. Now, the Mercury retrograde happens on the 18th of July at 15 degrees Leo. And on that day, the moon will be in Aries, another fire sign. So very, very interesting, meaning the moon and it's going to sextile Pluto, which is a powerful energy which presents itself big transformation, right? Yeah. So I found that interesting. I looked at the first week of June. I believe it was on the 7th. The moon's in Sagittarius. It's another fire sign. That lunation, obviously ruled by Jupiter. You know, I really can't say a specific date, but the timeline is very interesting with the astrology. And so I'm not trying to put fear in any of you guys, but, you know, I live on the West Coast. If you live in the ring of fire, shall we say, you should be prepared for an event. And if I know more, if I feel more, and I feel more adamantly about it approaching, I will definitely say something. But it just kind of made me think about that whole vibe because of the conjunction tomorrow with the sun and Uranus. And again, the sun is your consciousness, right? But it's also important to remember that the sun has a physicality to it. It's literally you being present. So in my mind, yeah, it can represent things that are physically happening here on Earth.